We have 1 minute. I show 9:30.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Let's call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Western Municipal Water District. Tammy, would you please conduct a roll call?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Director Torres. Here. Director Dinstead.
Good morning, Happy New Year. I am here.
Director Roten.
Good morning, I'm here.
Director Risby.
Good morning, I'm here.
President Gardner.
I am here as well, thank you.
Good morning, thank you. President Gardner, you do have a quorum today.
Great. And this morning we will be led in the pledge by Tom Cleve. Morning, Tom. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. As we heard, my name is Thomas Cleve. I've worked here in the district for 10 years coming this year. I work in the Administrative Services Department under the management team. All right, put your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is the time for public comments. Do we have any, Tammy?
We do not. I've received no written comments and have no requests to speak.
Okay, great. Brings us to consent calendar. Any comment on the consent calendar or request from any director to remove an item for discussion?
Nope, move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Tammy, would you please do a roll call vote?
Yes.
Director Dinstead.
Aye.
Director Roten.
Yes.
Director Risby.
Yes.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. General Manager, have we anything to add to the agenda?
President Gardner, nothing to add to the agenda. However, I would like to request that we move item 8A and call the Facilities Authority to order. We had to notice it specifically as a follow-on meeting to the normal regular board meeting. So rather than taking 8A as part of the normal board meeting, once we complete this meeting, the board meeting, we should call the Special Facilities Authority together and then consider 8A.
Okay, we will do so. So item 7, our action agenda first item is to adopt a grant resolution supporting application to the USBR for some money. Ms. Matlock.
Ryan reported this yesterday at EOWR. We didn't have time to take it through EOWR, so we gave a verbal report. And so Melissa will give the board the detailed information today for consideration. Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you. Good morning. So Resolution 3306 is a grant application to the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart Small Scale Water Efficiency Program. We are looking to bring our project SCADA Implementation Phase 2 Control Systems Installation at Pump Station project to an application for this funding opportunity. The request is up to $100,000 with a 50% cost match. Applications are due January 16th and do require a board resolution for support. I'm available for any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Is there any public comment on this, Tammy?
There is none.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion from Director
Second.
Risby, second from Director Denstedt. Any discussion? If not, Tammy, when the system is ready, would you please do a roll call vote?
Thank you. Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Denstedt?
Aye.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Risby?
Yes.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is a good one. And terminate an emergency status for the Mockingbird Canyon Reservoir, or Mockingbird Canyon Recycled Water Pipeline Emergency Repair Project. Mr. Kawai.
Yeah, it's much better than the alternative of declaring an emergency,
Yeah,
so we're
or-
glad to get through this.
Or continuing one.
Or continuing it again. So staff really worked hard to get this done quickly and safely and to prevent it from happening again. So Derek's going to run through kind of a closure of the incident with some pictures. So Derek, it's all you.
Thank you. Good
All right,
morning.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom in a little bit more into the document? Thank you. Sorry about that, Derek.
No problem. So good morning, directors, staff, and members of the public. As we begin 2024, I wish you all health, safety, and prosperity. Last July, the board declared an emergency for the Mockingbird Canyon Recycled Water Pipeline Project, allowing us to proceed without public bidding. Since then, our engineering and operations teams, along with MKN Engineering, Helix Environmental, and TK Construction, have worked diligently to complete the planning, permitting, design, and construction, and completed the project on December 8th, 2023. With the pipeline now operational, the emergency status is no longer needed. We've addressed almost all of the final tasks. We just have some punch list items, and once we're done with that, we'll get the record drawings and make some minor modifications to one of the existing storm drain outlets. Once we're done with that, we'll file the notice of completion probably this week. Helix team began revegetation and will also complete that shortly. They're completing that this week. The final cost is within the board authorized budget of $1,270,000. The pipeline is secure. There will be no need for any other contracts on an expedited basis, and therefore we request that the emergency status for the project be terminated. Lastly, I'd like to draw your attention to some photos of the gabions as they were installed. Maybe if we can just zoom in a little bit, I'll just show you. There's 3 of them. And the one that you're looking at the top is at the crossing. You might remember in the previous ones I showed you, we lowered the pipeline where the creek crosses over it, and then we put the gabions on top of the pipeline. And so now the creek passes over the pipeline. And then if you go to the next photo, you'll see this is at the bend, and there you'll see there's a storm drain outlet right there. That's the one where they're going to smooth out the edges of the storm drain outlet. And this is at the bend, so we put the gabions all the way around the corner so it doesn't undermine as it turns. And if you go to the last photo, you can see a little bit further away shot. So this is the gabions alongside the pipeline. And again, that's to protect the pipeline so that the creek doesn't flow along the trench ever again. And I conclude my remarks, and I open to any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions from board members? If not, Tammy, any public comment on this?
We have none.
Okay, I would look for a motion then.
Move to approve.
Motion,
Go ahead.
I'll second.
motion and a second. Tammy, when the system is ready, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Denstedt? Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Risby?
Yes.
President Gardner?
Aye,
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you, directors.
And congratulations to all the staff and the consultants who worked hard on this as well. But it was really good coordination. It went smoothly, and we saved a big mess, and probably a bunch of money. So our next item is on the agenda. It's election of board officers and discuss appointments to committees and board assignments. In the staff report, it's a little broader than that. We have 3 separate actions to take. The first is to elect officers, and then the second, which really needs to be a separate action, I believe, is to reaffirm appointment of the general manager as deputy secretary treasurer to act in the absence of the secretary treasurer. And then third is to discuss the incoming president's committee and representative assignments for calendar year 2023. So, Mr.
Yeah, I thought it might be a good idea to have council kind of review the process for the selection of officers because it did change in 2022. So Holland, could you maybe give a little update and help the board get started on the process?
You bet. Thanks, Greg. So for the benefit of the public and also to refresh the board, as it's been a year, at the first meeting in January every year, you guys will vote to appoint your officers. There is a president, the vice president, and the secretary treasurer, and then you will also consider appointing Craig as the deputy secretary treasurer in the event that the secretary treasurer is absent. The requirements in the Western Code reflect those in the Water Code. In 2022, the subcommittee for officer appointing considered a change to what had been the case where the board at its discretion could do a standard rotation of officers. So the president would move to the 5th position and so on and so forth, or they could opt out every year, and that would be considered an motion prior to any sort of consideration of the actual officers, as whether the board at that time wanted to go with a rotation or opt out of that. It ended up being more confusing than it was helpful. The board, I think, to be charitable, so the board at its discretion in July of 2022 passed Ordinance 350, which amended the code to remove I think it's 350. Removed the automatic rotation. It basically removed the requirement that the board had to consider. Now, obviously, if the board wanted to do a rotation, it could do so, but it removed that requirement to vote on it before considering officer appointments. So, what is before you today is the discussion and appointment of your own officers for 2024. You may vote for the whole slate at once, so you may bring a motion in which all 3 positions are considered, or you may vote on them one at a time. It is really up to President Gardner and to the board at its discretion. So I'm certainly available for any questions, but we'll turn it over to President Gardner.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
As-
She's ready.
Ready. I've thought about this. I remember back even on city council, this meeting was always, I don't want to say it's an anxious meeting, but it's a little bit uneasy because you just don't quite know what's going to happen. And anyway, so in reading this item and rereading the resolutions and the ordinance and things, the word even-keeled kept coming to me. And I don't know if it's because I was at the beach and I saw boats out on the ocean or what it was, but I looked up what keeping on an even keel means. And it's working or progressing smoothly and steadily without any sudden changes. And a even-keeled leader knows there will be ups and downs, but their steadiness in the face of challenges allows those they lead to react in a similar manner. And I really felt like last year, like 2023, that we came together as a board and worked well together, and we had good discussions, and although we don't always agree with each other, we were able to talk about that. And so my motion, I believe that we would benefit by keeping the same officers for 2024 that we have right now, president, vice president, and secretary treasurer. So that would be my motion.
And I would second that. I think that that's completely appropriate. We did it prior to this, and we've had a smooth year. Everything has gone great. I think all of the assignments, I don't know that anybody, unless somebody no longer is able to perform their duties and the commitment that they've had for committee assignments, I think those should all stay the same as well. So I am glad to second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Okay, Tammy, is there any public comment on this one?
We have none.
Okay, when the system is ready, if you do a roll call vote, please.
Director Torres,
Yes.
Director Dinstedt,
Aye.
Director Roten,
Yes.
Director Rizvi,
Yes.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to thank the board for your faith in me and your other officers, and I pledge that I will do my best to keep us on an even keel. I think this is going to be an exciting year. We've got a lot of things happening outside the agency that are incredibly important to us. Senate Bill 366 maybe being the primary one, but there are very important things happening at Metropolitan Water District and other agencies. And it's going to be an exciting year. So, as always, if any board member has any issues or questions or suggestions or problems, I do encourage you to let me know that, whether in board comments or give me a call. And with that, let's turn to reaffirming the appointment of the general manager as deputy secretary treasurer to act in the absence of the secretary treasurer.
So moved.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Is there any discussion? Tammy, no public comment?
There is none.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, when the system is prepared.
Director Torres,
Yes.
Director Dinstedt,
Aye.
Director Roten,
Yes.
Director Rizvi,
Yes.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and as far as the committee and representative assignments for next year, I would ask each of the board members, let me know if there is any of your assignments that you would just soon not have any longer, if there are any assignments that you don't have that you would like to have. And I will do my best to accommodate all of those requests. If we want to leave that the same, that's entirely up to the board as well. So let me know. I will bring to our next meeting, and actually it will be provided ahead of time with the package, a proposed matrix with assignments, and it will highlight if there are any changes in assignments of any of us board members. So let me know if you would like anything different than what we currently have, and we'll go from there. And I do not see an action on this one at this point.
That is correct,
yeah.
President
No,
Gardner.
so-
There's no action for today. The board should take that with them to discern what they would like to do. And there was a blank matrix provided in the packet, but if you need one, please let me know.
So, all right, thank you very much. Just for clarification, agenda item 8, we are going to take after we conclude the rest of the commission business,
That's correct.
the board business? Okay, thank you. That then brings us to agenda item 9, reports. Mr. General Counsel.
Sorry. Nothing to report. Hope everybody had a great holiday season, and it's good to see you all.
Mr. General Manager.
Thank you. I got a short report. Wishing everyone a Happy New Year also. We had an amazing year in 2023. Great accomplishments. We presented those accomplishments to the board and to staff, and then we reviewed some of them again at our annual employee appreciation event, which was really fun, and thank you to the board members that were able to attend. It was great to see you there, and staff really appreciates having you there. This year coming up, we have very high expectations. Director Gardner already kind of hit on it a little bit. We've got a lot in the works. we have a lot of momentum going from 2023, and my expectations are very high that we're going to continue that through 2024. And that's, on the state level, on the regional level, at Metropolitan and locally. We've got a lot of things that are cooking. And you might be aware that this is our third year of our strategic plan that this board approved. And so we want to finish that strong, and then, we'll be bringing back probably at the end of this year the next strategic plan. We also will probably be redoing our aspiration plan. So 10 years ago, we set an aspiration plan that actually expires in '25. So we'll probably bring that back to the board for thoughts of what we want to accomplish over the next 10 years. So I'm super excited about that long-range planning. It's important for this board to help set those priorities for the staff so we know what we're working on and make sure we're in alignment with the board. So really excited about that. Lots of challenges ahead. I'm confident that our top-notch team is going to excel again. And we've built quite a team here at Western, and I'm super excited to be working with them. So with that, that concludes my comments.
Okay.
Tony Pollock is here. We presented to EOWR. No? We haven't presented at all? You've presented to me?
To staff, yeah,
So.
to all hands meetings.
We participated in the Confined Space Rodeo at Harupa Community Services District. And it was a really rewarding experience for our staff. Our Confined Space team turns out to be phenomenal. And you always think they're phenomenal, and then they compete against the other teams. And so I asked Tony to bring this to the board's attention because I'm really proud of it and he's really proud of it. So Tony, go ahead and share with the board how the event went.
Good morning, board. So, yeah, as Craig mentioned, probably 6 months ago, we were contacted by Harupa Community Services District and asked if we'd like to participate in a little friendly competition in terms of confined space rescue. And of course, Craig and the team was, yes, we're ready to compete. As they reached out to other entities to seek involvement, some of the others were less interested in competition, but nonetheless agreed, hey, we should get together and kind of understand one another's skill set. So that's kind of the basis for it. So in this presentation, we'll talk about the purpose, which we just did, agencies involved, some action scenarios, participants, and then photos of the event. So the purpose, as I stated, was just kind of networking within our region. Hey, who's available to do what? What are other entities doing? What do they have for equipment, capacities, so on and so forth, and a little friendly competition. Agencies involved. CAL FIRE was there. They actually were not the host, but CAL FIRE was there. Cucamonga Valley Water District, Inland Empire Utilities, Harupa Community Services District, they were the host and coordinator. Rancho California Water District was in attendance, obviously Western. And this event was hosted at the All Risk Training Center, which belongs to, I think, Rancho Cucamonga Fire. So, beautiful facility. As we got there, we had a bit of a briefing with all the teams in the morning and kind of came up with, okay, what are the action spots within the rescue that we're going to do? And really what this was kind of a gauntlet of activities with 4 stations. And kind of the first station was retrieving a victim that was in a confined space. And at this training facility, there were a number of pipes buried in the ground, about 36 inches in diameter in various vaults. And all of them eventually led to a elevator shaft. So the first event was 2 victims were down in a hole. Atmosphere conditions were fine, so no supply to air or SCBAs were needed. First team entered the pipes, located the victims, placed them in skeds and harnesses, moved them to an elevator shaft. Second team was set up on the 4th floor of the building. They dropped equipment down the elevator shaft, retrieved the victim out of the confined space, up the shaft to the second floor where there was a third team. The third team would retrieve the victim out of the elevator shaft, move them through a building and out over the side of the building and drop them down to the ground in a litter. There was a team that retrieved them in the litter, moved them through the building along the ground floor to the back of the building, and then there was a team set up on the third story that had to basically create a pick point out over the edge of the building, pull the victims up to the third floor, and then bring them back down a stairwell, all while these people are packaged. And this was the layout of the event. This is our team that you see in this photo. They're on the third floor, and they're getting ready to retrieve a victim, bring them up, and then back down. So those were the 4 situations. Now there are 3 different scenarios kind of relating to the confined space. In this first one, the team did their rescue with good atmospheric conditions, no respiratory protection was required. The second event in that confined space theoretically had a poor environment, and so CAL FIRE actually did the rescue. You can see these photos are of CAL FIRE, and they were going into the space wearing self-contained breathing apparatuses to retrieve these victims and move them through. So point we bring this up is it adds complexity, right? This pipe is 36 inches in diameter. You have a body in there. Now you have another rescuer with an additional air tank on their back. So you start seeing the free space within the pipe gets smaller and smaller. Third situation was handed to us, and again, it was poor quality air, and so we had to rescue our victims now without a self-contained breathing apparatus, but rather we set up air bottles outside and had a 300-foot umbilical cord attached to our own respirators. So we had to get into the space, navigate through, dragging an umbilical cord, get to the victim, package the victim, provide breathing air to them, move them through, and ultimately into the elevator shaft. So we were given that task because we were the only ones on site that actually had umbilical breathing air. So I'll talk about that briefly. We showed up, everybody showed up with their rescue equipment, their trailers, fire department shows up with their rig, and so everybody was walking through our trailer, and I gotta say that Western has invested heavily in our confined space rescue program, and so we were kind of the bella of the ball. Even the fire department was a bit taken back with what we had for equipment, and there might have been things on our trailer that actually the fire department might not have had, and so there might have been some joking back and forth about how well equipped we were. But nonetheless, it was a great opportunity. I think the other entities really enjoyed seeing our trailer and how it was set up and the investments that we had made, and it kind of got their wheels turning on what they would do to further their program. So, like I mentioned, this scenario, during the first run where the atmosphere was good, our team was set up on the third floor, and we did some rigging and pulled a victim up the side. Now that sounds simple, but we think about this. Traditionally, when you rescue somebody, you're hoping to have a tripod, right? 3-legged device, drop a line down the center and pull somebody up. Well, when you're in a staircase, you don't have a place to set the third leg. If you did, then your pick point would be over the floor and not over the side of the building. So we had to build a bipod and figure out a way to secure it and tie it off and get it leaned out over the handrail in order to pull a victim up. Team was well versed. We set up all of our rigging and accomplished the task. It's always a bit nervous because these are live people. We're not using dummies. These are real people that feel the confinement and the pinch of these things, and so we have to be very mindful. Second scenario, we were in the building on the second floor. We retrieved the victim out of the elevator shaft, and on this one it was a bit different. The victim comes up and they're just wearing a harness, so we have to retrieve them, and then we have to set them in a full litter, move the litter through, and so you've secured them in this basket, if you will, move them through, and then hang them back up over the side. Again, we had a pick point up on the ceiling that we could use to kind of pivot our lines and put this person back on the ground. Third event, this was where we did our umbilical air. You can see this is our tank set up in this photo. There's 2 self-contained breathing apparatus bottles Each one is about 4,400 PSI, so there's a fair amount of air within each one of those bottles. It goes through a set of regulators, and we're able to supply multiple umbilical cords with the needed air to survive. So we did a really nice job on that. The team really came together, which we'll get to in a second. Some of these folks hadn't really done any of this before. Shouldn't say that. Specific tasks. So I'll talk participants. We had Nick Barnes, John Woolbird, Brandon Castaneda, Les Campbell, Misa Hernandez, Noah Bixler, Fernando Bahia, Sean Diaz, Mark Stottlebacher, and Jesse Corrigan. I go back here for a second. This gentleman had never run a breathing air cart, but he was like, hey, that's what we got to do. That's the assignment we're given. Let's figure it out. So there were other members of the team that had, and so that was our training opportunity. We sat down and got this individual schooled up on, hey, here's how you do it. Here's what's going on. This alarm goes off. You switch to this tank, rotation of equipment, blah, blah, blah. Really nicely done. So kudos to the team. They did a wonderful job, stepped up, did everything that was asked of them. A bit nervous, right, to jump in a situation, have eyes on you, and have to perform. But the team rose to the occasion and really represented Western nicely. So to finish it off, there's just random photos of our team, the trailers and the guys doing their job. I'd highlight the photo in the lower right. You see a gentleman pulling on a rope. It takes a lot of effort to pull a 200-pound person 3 stories up a building. And so Noah's kind of our biggest guy on the team, and we had a little guy on the rope, and he was struggling, so Noah's like, hey, get out of the way, let me jump in there. And so he's just pulling rope, and we're getting this guy up where he had to be. And on that first one, we actually had 2 victims, so we had to pull a person up twice and then control their descent down, 2 people. So it is quite physical when you're looking at doing this. CAL FIRE, some of their activities, Cucamonga Valley Water District, they were on the top floor. This picture that you see in the right, there's a lot of rigging. They were pulling the victim up out of the confined space and into the second story of the building for retrieval. They had set up many, many lines and block and tackle in order to reduce the load on each one of those ropes. Inland Empire Utilities, they're witnessing. They didn't really have a trailer. They're trying to figure out, hey, what should their program look like? So I think this was a good opportunity for them to kind of see what other people are doing in the space. And actually, 2 of their staff volunteered to be rescued during the first scenario, which was really nice. JCSD, again, doing what needed to be done. Center picture is actually Chandler Latoul, that I think is their Director of Operations and Engineering. He was our victim on the second rescue. And then Rancho California Water District, same thing. They showed up late, and I don't know how well defined their program is, but they were there to kind of witness what was going on. And I think overall our hopes are that this continues to grow in the coming years, and that we continue this idea of camaraderie and kind of getting together and figuring out, hey, what can we do? How can we support one another? And so with that, happy to answer any questions.
Questions from board members?
Go ahead.
Comments?
I just have a couple of comments. You knew I was going to comment on this. I have gone through, obviously a century ago for me, but I have gone through a lot of this training myself. I've had to don BAs. I've had to go into smokehouses and do a variety of different rescues and opportunities. And I'll tell you, the amount, when you use real people, and you've instructed real people, especially if they are instructed that they are injured and complaining about injuries, and they're yelling and they're screaming and they're panicking, and sometimes those are the scenarios that play out, that sets a whole different tone to the exercise. Your adrenaline starts to kick in. You start to get the shakes because the adrenaline is pumping through your body so fast. And the scenario gets to be very real because, the other factor that you really have to realize and think about too is that you are now rescuing a coworker, somebody you personally know, somebody that is now trapped, injured, and has gone through, and everything has just gone bad. And so everybody's got to be able to keep that level head to be able to go and move on this stuff and act in a timely fashion because you don't know what type of injuries you've got. So kudos to you guys for doing this kind of training. This is excellent. I'm thrilled that CAL FIRE really is envious of your guys' trailer. That's awesome. But it also lets people know in the region that should a critical incident happen, there are other teams to deploy, to call, and put into action that may have equipment on a phone call to be able to respond, because that's not the time where you start making phone calls to see. You want to know who's got it and who's available and who can deploy. And that is critical information to have. So I really hope you guys continue to do this. I hope there are more agencies that get involved and it turns into maybe an annual event. Because it really is. You never know when a training opportunity goes awry, and then you've got to quickly adapt and pivot. And cross-training is really imperative because you don't know if the guy that you're rescuing is the guy that's knowing how to run the oxygen tank and running the umbilicals, right? So it's really critical to do that cross-training. And I'll tell you what, anytime you need a victim to come in, I'm your girl to call.
Good at it.
Well, and it's
I'm your girl
nice, right,
call.
when we have CAL FIRE out there, because they would be who we would call if something went wrong. And so having them know our skills and abilities, what equipment we have, it creates a nice partnership.
Absolutely.
Right, and same with any of the other entities. Obviously, we cross paths with JCSD. We have a partnership with Rancho, other entities. So that's always nice for us to know what they're up against and for them to understand what we can do as well. So I will point out, normally when we do training, we do have a life-size dummy that does
Right.
weigh 180, 190 pounds, because we don't want to necessarily put people in harm's way. This one was calculated, and we did it on purpose. And you're right, the adrenaline is certainly there. When it's a dummy and something goes wrong, you're like, oh, look, poor dummy fell.
Right.
Right, you know,
Right.
it's not the end of the world. Whereas in this situation, you have somebody dangling 30 feet in the air.
Yep.
You better make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are
Changes the
crossed.
scenario completely, for
exactly.
sure. So, and it changes the reaction of staff too, of everybody that's deployed in that situation, because now they're like, oh, wow. I mean, somebody could really get hurt here. So kudos to you for doing this. This takes a lot of training, a lot of coordination, a lot of planning, and a lot of commitment and dedication. So kudos to the team for doing this. I think that's outstanding, and I hope you guys continue to do it. And I hope Western offers a hosting ability if we can partner with Ben Clark Training Center even and do their facility and use that. And I would say if there's ever an opportunity to do, a live smokehouse and things too, that you guys seize that opportunity, because it completely changes the scenario and it completely changes what skill set you have to expect. It's always better to go into it and have experienced it at least once or twice instead of having to go into a live situation and now you're having to do a rescue because something really went bad.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Director Risby. Okay.
I was just saying, great. It looked really amazing. Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, just like Director Dunstead said, years ago, I did my confined space training, and obviously I was younger, thinner, and took way more risks than I probably should have at the time. And just recently, I had the opportunity to be in a manhole in a storm drain. And I was freaking out. I was moving slowly down the manhole. It was the scariest thing. And so I think, I say all this to point out how important it is that you continue training, to have these activities, because, we change as people with our experiences. And just obviously I have to say how proud you must have felt, how proud we are feeling right now.
All of us, yeah.
That not only were you, following our values to be regional leaders, you were also, like Director Dunstead said, putting yourself in a position to help whenever it's necessary. And so this looks amazing. I volunteer as tribute. I don't know how long I'll last. Tied up to gurney, which I trained at Ben Clark, also tied up to gurneys and things like that. And it was fun then. Now I can't imagine even trying it, but I'll volunteer as tribute if you ever need it. I think this is amazing. Really, really cool.
Thank you, guys. The team did a wonderful job, and they take a 2-year commitment This team will be in place. The new team, it changes every January. They make a 2-year commitment. And so again, in 2 years, there will be an opportunity for them to stay on or get off, and we'll bring on new people. And we do quarterly trainings just within our own team. So one day every 3 months, they dedicate 10 hours to setting up some sort of scenario and running through it and practicing knots and all this stuff. And so, yeah, there is a quarterly piece
Well,
to it as well.
And the other thing, just like you said, when you're doing a live person and somebody's doing the pull, they understand now what the physical requirements are.
Yes.
And when somebody's like, hey, you're not getting this done, I need to get in here and, start doing this, they understand now. And it's like, maybe those morning push-ups need to happen every day. So, because it's very physically tasking. And the last thing you want is for your body to give,
Yeah.
while you're in the middle of something, and because that's just a horrible feeling. So yeah, so good on you guys.
So I have a question and a comment. So it was called a rodeo. Was there scoring or placement or?
I think that was originally the idea, that there would have been some sort of grading criteria, but I think a lot of entities got a little nervous about, well, I don't know that we want to be graded necessarily,
Sure.
so,
Sure.
yeah.
No, and I get that, and I think the value of all these different agencies, whether they were kind of observing, like it looked like a couple of the pictures were, or actually hands-on, you're all learning, and it's
Oh, of course.
invaluable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. And so the only thing that I have to compare it to, I've gone through the CERT training, and at the end of the training, they do like an emergency scenario. And then I took a refresher, but both of these have been a number of years ago. And like you say, you change, and also when you don't use that, you lose it. It's like, oh, that's right, I was supposed to do this. But I could relate to the adrenaline thing, because even though we knew it was a setup, with fake victims, and, they had all varying degrees of injuries, and the scenario had been all set up. There was smoke, I think, in one, electrical wires on the ground. It feels real when you get in there, and you're just like, and I just remember I could just feel that energy going through, and then, but what a great learning experience that was. And this, my gosh, this
Yeah.
is like way above
This was
that
good.
experience.
It was
But, yeah, so that's the only thing. It's funny, because as you were talking, I thought, oh, I remember that, going through that exercise and feeling that, even though, and I would tell myself, okay, these aren't real victims, and it's not really happening, but it seems like it is.
Yes,
So,
for
yeah,
sure.
so thank you. That's amazing. And thank you for sharing it with all of us.
Absolutely, I'm glad. I'm happy to.
I appreciate the briefing as well. This is such important work, because people do get hurt. They fall into things. They're not supposed to, but occasionally they enter a place with bad air and have a problem. Or there can be a leak after you've already tested. It's just fine. I can go in without any breathing protection, and then it's not fine anymore, and you're down. I like the idea of trying to keep this going. I think Tony, but I come out of the electric utility industry, and they have a lineman's rodeo every year, and it's national. You have to win regional competitions and a state competition to get to go to the national competition.
Oh, cool.
But it's organized and it's formalized, and you build pride in your own team that they do well. It makes people who maybe didn't want to invest the time to become a team member, says, I'd like to do that. And you do work with other agencies, and just as you did with CAL FIRE, people learn what capabilities you have. So if they show up together at an emergency, you work better together because you have.
Yeah.
So I would love to see this continue and grow and become an actual rodeo where there is competition.
Yeah.
Lineman's rodeo, you've got fault rescues, you've got the unconscious person at the top of the pole, all those things.
Yeah.
And, it's very similar. You won't do much pole climbing, hopefully, but.
I hope not. I don't mind going on the ground, but.
But there is real value to it. And for any exceptional members of Western's team, there is a Urban Search and Rescue Task Force Number 6 that is based out of Riverside. Riverside Fire Department is a primary member. There are civilian members of that team, and you may have people on your team who would be interested in considering joining the USAR task force. And you get sent off to all kinds of things. Riverside's team went to Ground Zero on 9/11.
Right.
And they went off after hurricanes and earthquakes and, all kinds of things. So we may have skills that would be valuable
Absolutely.
on our team.
Absolutely.
We'd be taking somebody away from Western for a couple of weeks, which is always a little bit of a challenge to replace somebody who is really good.
Yeah.
But it's a major contribution that
Balancing
could
those
be useful.
resources.
So, and there are other opportunities for joint training with other emergency agencies. CAL FIRE is one, the larger fire departments in our surrounding cities are potentially another. So, good for you guys.
Very cool.
Great
Thank you.
report.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Miller?
No, that concludes the GM report. Thank you.
Okay. Director's reports and requests. SAPA did not meet yesterday. They canceled that meeting. MWD.
Has not met. We meet next week.
Okay. Chino Basin Water Master did have a closed session special meeting to discuss some personnel issues, and there was nothing reportable out of that, but I anticipate down the road there may be. Chino Basin Desalter meets tomorrow, and I get to cover that because Laura's back on vacation. Rikra?
We met last month and we'll meet in February now.
Okay. WRCOG?
WRCOG will not have an executive committee meeting this month, but we are going to have a strategic plan here on Friday, January the 12th, and it is here being hosted in our building.
Great. Sarah, I saw was canceled.
It was canceled.
Aqua?
And nothing to report on Aqua.
Okay. Directors' comments, Director Torres, start at your end.
Yeah, I just want to wish everyone a happy 2024. I hope your holidays were nice, and I hope this year is the best one yet.
Director Roden?
Yes, I'll ditto the Happy New Year wishes. I don't know why I'm partial to even numbers, so I'm all excited about 2024. Well, that's true, but I don't know why I like even numbers, but I do. So that, and I also like New Year because I feel like you can greet people with that like the whole month of January. You can sign your emails that way, you can, I don't know. I know I'm kind of odd, but anyway, Happy New Year. And Mike, I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership as president of the board for the last year. And it's been much appreciated. I've appreciated your guidance. I know certain times you'll bring up things, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I'll be like, I would have never thought of that, and that it'll be a question that you have maybe from past experience or something like that.
There are some advantages to being old.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that. But anyway, thank you, and thank you to my colleagues. I think 2023 was a good year, and this year should be exciting with SB 366 and all those kinds of things happening. And we are getting some rain, which is a relief, because I don't know about you, but I was like, is it gonna rain this year? Or was it just a one-off from last year?
I think Ryan did that.
Looks pretty good. So at least we're getting, I guess, maybe what they would say normal rainfall, but that's always helpful. So, yeah, so here's to 2024.
Director Dunstett?
Thank you. I wasn't in attendance officially at the last meeting. I was on Zoom because I wasn't exactly 100%, so didn't want to give anybody cooties possibly before the holidays. I don't want to be that person. But I was able to go to CRUA, which is the Colorado River Water Users Association conference in Las Vegas. And 7 states showed up, and there were 1,300 attendees at this conference. And it was quite the experience, being able to speak to people and hear some of the presenters and talk about the complications of the Colorado River and how all of the agreements come into play and concerns from not just the 7 states, but there was a tremendous turnout from the tribes that were there, from all of the nations that line the Colorado River through the states. So it was a very educational experience. It's an annual conference, so I look forward to going back to that just to hear more, because there's so much complication, and that agreement extends so long and has got so much history. And I was very fortunate to sit and have a couple of conversations. Bill Hastingcamp, who is a Metropolitan employee and is the manager for the Colorado River, he is the go-to guru. And that's very evident when you go to this conference, because everybody wants to talk to Bill about his knowledge. So I'm really fortunate to have direct access to him at Met and have some more in-depth conversations and get to understand, what the history is behind where we're at today. So there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking going on. Obviously there's got to be some agreements. There's more water being taken off of the Colorado and allocated than there is available. And so there's a lot of still negotiations and a lot of pushing back. And I'll tell you, it was really fascinating to look up at the stage in the main conference area, and it's probably one of the longest conference rooms that I've ever seen.
The presenters are this big.
Yeah, the presenters are this big. If you're stuck in the back of the room, you're like getting the binoculars out to see them. But to see the flags across the stage of all the nations, the 2 countries, because Mexico was also there, to see all of that presentation and just understand the gravity of what was going on in the room was really a sight, and gave me a whole new appreciation for what Metropolitan is doing at the negotiation table to preserve California rights, and we're junior rights holders. So it's really a concern, and it just puts everything into perspective when you go to something like that, of what the enormity of the job that we have at hand to do. Yeah. So just kind of wanted to share that perspective, being that I've, not done that conference before, and that that was something new for me. So and then I had a wonderful holiday. I had the wonderful opportunity to have my kid come home, so I get to spend a week with her. So I was thrilled to do that, and I hope you guys all enjoyed your family, enjoyed the week off that we had, and staff had a great time, and you all rung in the new year, and it's going to be a great 2024.
Great.
Thank you.
Director Rizvi.
Just wishing everyone a happy new year. Thank you.
Look, a couple of things. First, congratulations to our Vice President and our Secretary Treasurer. Look forward to working with you another year. Happy New Year to everybody. May it be a healthy and happy and satisfying one for you. We've got some fun challenges. It should help make it be a satisfying and happy one. The healthy part, I guess, is on your own. Stay out of confined spaces. And that's it. It's a good year. Looking forward to it. Do we have requests for future agenda items? Okay, we have none. We've got some information items in the packet. Our next meeting is January 17th of this year at 9:30, and we need to go now back to item 8A. And Council, should we adjourn the board meeting and before we call to order the?
President Gardner, I'll leave that to the discretion of the board. I think technically for the Brown Act, right, we need to meet at our notice time. This was just sort of an inadvertent slip up by me and the board secretary, Ms. Ford, about not making sure that it was properly noticed on the heading. It is in the agenda, right? So this is sort of, we are trying to make up for an inadvertent mistake on the agenda.
And it was posted.
It was
in time,
posted. So, Ms. Ford, have we gotten any public comments about the Facilities Authority's action item?
I have not.
So, President Garner, I will defer to you. I think this is, maybe technically speaking, we were supposed to meet at our agendized time. So if the board does not mind or has other things that they would like to take care of between now and 11, we could certainly do that and adjourn. Or we can just meet at 10:30, say, and and sort of take care of it in post. Or we can adjourn this for maybe sometime in the future, maybe the next meeting. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think we may as well just go ahead and take care of the action today.
Sure.
It's largely a pro forma kind of an action by the board. So let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting of the Board of Directors. And we want to take a quick break. Was this noticed for 11 o'clock?
It was noticed for 11. Yeah.
It was,
Okay.
yes, it was noticed for 11 o'clock because it's difficult to determine the
course.
ending of a meeting.
Okay.
But I will say, Ms. Ford did post it at 10, so it has been 24 hours per the 24-hour Brown Act
But if it was
requirements.
posted at 11, we probably should wait.
Okay.
But it was
Posted for
posted,
11.
it was posted at 10 a.m.
Right.
Actually, 10:05 to be specific, but
And notice for 11.
Well, let's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's noticed for 11, I think we should do it at 11.
Okay.
I don't expect there to be any members of the public who wish to participate, but they need to have that opportunity if they do. So we will adjourn the board meeting and we will convene the Water District Facilities Authority meeting at 11 a.m. And everybody has a few minutes off.
that sounds good. Thank you.